Hey guys, we all remember this shocking video that came from Hurricane Ian just 1 year ago when Ian rolled through not too far south from where we're expecting landfall with Idalia by early tomorrow morning. And one of the biggest problems was the storm surge in areas like Sanibel Island, Fort Myers, and Cape Coral. Major damage because of the surge, that wall of water that rolled into town. So let's talk about storm surge. It is the difference between measured sea level and the normal sea level, or where the ocean would typically be if not for that storm rolling through and creating those much larger waves. High tide and a full moon creates the worst case scenario. The reason being because it starts to elevate the sea level. So unfortunately, we are looking at high tide near the time of landfall. And on top of that, we are nearing a full moon as well. Tide plus surge equals storm tide. That is that final height of water that moves inland and causes damage during a hurricane. So let's talk about the peak storm surge forecast that's put out by the National Hurricane Center. Take a look at this map. That hot pink zone that you see along the Big Bend area, that's an area where over 12-foot storm surge is possible. Catastrophic damage is expected in those areas, and this is a forecast that's not too different from what we had with Ian just last year. Then you look down to Tampa Bay, still in the yellow area, that indicates up to 6-foot storm surge. Again, a large amount that could cause problems. So let's take a closer look into our virtual weather lab where we can really visualize how this storm surge works. There's the look at our normal tide level. Then these waves that you see, that is the storm tide, the additional height because of the hurricane moving through. The big factor here is the winds. When you have a hurricane, the rotation around the system is counterclockwise, meaning the right side of the storm sees the highest storm surge because the winds are forcing inland. As they force inland, they gather water, and that creates that surge. In fact, on the left side of storms, we often will see water recede because the winds are pulling the water away from land. But that right side, it's all about the storm surge height. Say you have a 3-foot storm surge, which is possible for some parts of the western parts of Florida as we go into tomorrow morning. That's not going to cause major damage except for in low-lying areas or right against the shoreline. But once you get to that 6-foot surge, which we mentioned is possible in Tampa, now notice how it's starting to take over areas like streets or even some buildings and homes. But it's that 12-foot or higher storm surge, that massive level that is going to extend up into buildings, possibly up to a second floor of a house, an apartment complex, and create that catastrophic damage. It's why folks in parts of the Big Bend are being recommended to evacuate immediately, guys. This is the type of damage we saw with Ian, and unfortunately, it looks possible with Idalia too.